Established founder and executive operator known for bridging creative vision with operational quality across hospitality and experiential real estate. That is a very interesting combination there. You're the founder and CEO of Design Group 42 and CEO and co founder of International Executive Rentals. So here we go. Thank you so much for taking the time today. Really appreciate it. Um, your work with DG42, Una, the way you think about place and durability really stands out. Can you dig into that a bit for us?
Sure, I'm a native Californian and my background is in real estate and construction and real estate development. And as somebody from the state, I always kind of was good at noticing what the next frontiers were. And um, there's definitely a value that one can continue to create to add when it comes to the space of hospitality and especially really intentional, unique hospitality. So I really set down on this path starting about 2017, got serious about it around 2020, where I wanted to invest my time and resources into
Okay.
creating something in the hospitality space that's just not being done in California. So that's kind of what the evolution of it was.
Was it kind of a light bulb moment? You realized there was a need out there, a niche that wasn't being filled properly?
Absolutely. I
Mhm.
realized that there was a multitude of needs that I felt were kind of amiss in the hospitality space in California. And then I really honed into what I see in experiential hospitality when it comes to regenerative architecture, regenerative agriculture, ecotourism, elevated health and wellness components that are offered in other places that are still lacking in California, which is kind of interesting because California is such a global destination and we're known for so many of these things. Yeah, we don't have a lot of hospitality components to give, an offering.
Oh, mhm. So what would your day look like? You know, in the space that you're in, you're overseeing design, entitlements, strategy, and a niche that's needing to expand where you are, California.
Yeah. Um, lot of my days consist with honestly, lots of little, connections like this, oftentimes centered around connecting with other women in the space of development and hospitality.
Hmm.
That's another place where there's a lot of room for growth and evolution. Oftentimes, women do not have an opportunity to really have a seat at the table until projects are fully capitalized and funded and instituted, that to the
Hmm.
point that they're institutionalized. When I stepped into this space, I really realized as somebody with a development and construction background, I kind of liken it to, building our own table, building our own seats, and inviting other women to share those seats with us. So a lot of that, hopefully almost every day that I'm working, there's some kind of connection that I'm making with women in the space globally
Hmm.
on different
Hmm.
aspects of the world of travel and hospitality.
Hmm. So can you take us through DG42 and how you think about building long-term value in hospitality and residential projects? How does that work?
That's a great question. So one of the things that the state needs is more housing, right? We need more tax dollars. We need to bring more of that and keep more of that in California. So by creating intentional opportunities and unique hospitality projects where we're able to add workforce housing into them, where we're able to bring more tax credits into an area, we're able to add to economic development. The other
Hmm.
aspect of it, as far as long-term goals go, my goal for my recent project is for it to be the first net positive hospitality project in the United States, or at the very least, as close to it as possible. So looking at things through a sustainable lens as well. So how do we go into a community? How do we serve as developers and bring true development, both from an ecological, sustainable, environmentally conscious standpoint in the way we build, as well as the long-term arc of how do we help elevate the economy and the surroundings through our offerings, not just through employment, but through programs that give back.
Mhm. Okay. What kind of shifts are you seeing right now in experiential real estate and hospitality? What's changing? What's staying the same?
What's continuing to change is that people are realizing that there's value, greater value in experiences. When I was a kid, I think it was just kind of going on vacation was the experience. The and connecting with nature, those were kind of two separate things where oftentimes it was you kind of go on vacation or you'd go on something nature driven, whether it's your skiing or your camping or your backpacking. Now there's a convergence point where people want the true comforts and luxury of high quality and high caliber hospitality, but they also want to be able to have those really earth-driven experiences, connecting with the land, whether that's through ecotourism, whether that's through, agrotourism. So that's definitely something that's really evolving and growing because people love to see,
Hmm.
what they're eating, how that's coming from the earth, but also be able to experience that not just in a rustic farm, but stay
Hmm.
somewhere where, they're able to have amenities and all of that. One thing
Yeah.
that I'm seeing is staying a little bit the same is which some of the brands that are doing a better job at it, that are really diversifying, are understanding that at any level of hospitality, no matter the what the nightly rate is, there's ways to differentiate yourself in the space instead of just doing the status quo. So whether
Yeah.
you're, a hospitality um, entity that serves a corporate clientele, or whether you're serving a more um, niche, travel clientele, there's ways to offer more diversity in what you're doing than before. So some people are catching
Hmm.
on, some people aren't yet.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So how are developers balancing creativity with operational discipline, the day-to-day pluses and minuses on the ledger here in today's environment?
That's a great question. Working with the right operators is really important, and those
Hmm.
operators having an ethos of how to take the practical side of, the ROI on a property. How much money do we need to make? How many,
Yeah.
do we need to have in our beds and occupancy rate and all of that? But coupling that with the ethos of how you operate and run, um, there's
Hmm.
definitely a convergence in where you work with the right teams, that you're bringing both of those pieces and parts together, where you're able to offer both quality and day-to-day operations, as well as how does that in turn lead to higher occupancy rates and loyalty, essentially. So
Mm-hmm.
those two places need to really kind of converge.
Yeah, the basic realism of any kind of real estate, paying the bills versus reaching out and taking that next step forward into a super high quality product that people need out there today. So, do you think the market is rewarding patience and durability more than speed right now, or is it the speed that's being rewarded?
It really depends on the type of investors and partners that you're working with. The real estate game in general, in order to win at it, it's a long arc game. It's not tech. It's not, your quick startups and flips. So people that are interested in multi-generational building multi-generational family wealth and legacy and all that, do look at projects that have a more long arc appeal because it speaks more to their personal values. So it really depends on,
Mm,
who you are, your appetite for risk, as well as you know, your ability to be patient.
mhm, mhm. What's working particularly well across your platforms these days? Uh, yeah, you've got challenges here and there, just like every business. And what is working particularly well for you guys today?
What's working well is that I've noticed that the people that I surround myself with and where I go and look at, doing projects like my most recent one, what works well is being able to clearly define a need and then surrounding yourself within a community and with
Mm,
decision makers and with partners that are all on the same page of how to most conscientiously and with integrity work to resolve and solve towards whatever filling this need is. To me, that's what works best versus just looking at numbers and
yeah.
you have to look at things more holistically. The more holistic your picture is, the better that works. And of course,
Hmm.
factor into it, but the numbers are one part of a much greater pie.
So, in the industry as a whole, is there too much constraint on, quarter by quarter profits versus taking the long view? Um, what's your thoughts on that?
I am right now in my current project being an early phase development
Hmm.
is different because, we're not open yet, but I do know other projects that have recently come to market. And the more niche special projects are definitely looking at the longer arc, building that reputation, building the brand, building that sustainable following. The more quarterly driven projects are the ones that are the more in and out, right? The more
Yeah.
your basic, more corporate type entities where you're in a tighter knit kind of space with more competition and how do you stand out quarter by quarter to be,
Yeah.
the strongest one kind of in the game. But it depends who your audience is and you know, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
who is serving. Yeah.
So, for you and your organizations here, where do things feel most complex or constrained right now? Is it entitlement timelines, capital alignment, or scaling, your brand integrity? Where's the friction right now?
I would say
There's a harder question. So,
right. I would say right now with the kind of where things are at in general, of course there's this constraint of, interest rates and dollars and the expense of building things and all of that. But the way to mitigate that is to continue to work on solving through alternative models and structures. Like one of the things that we're working on right now is modular 3D printing. And
hmm,
that can both be very viable from an economic standpoint as well as from a sustainability standpoint, from a branding standpoint, all that. So kind of back to your question,
hmm,
there can be road bumps that kind of cross all those lanes that you just mentioned, but how do you try and
hmm,
solve for solutions that kind of meet all of those? And when it comes to capital, for example, how do you align with capital partners that,
hmm,
see long-term vision, you know, see
hmm,
down the road and also want to be a
hmm.
part of a brand that, they believe in. So the more you kind of look at something again across all lanes, I feel like the easier you're able to look for solutions
Yeah.
to the problems.
You mentioned modular and 3D printing. The modular is interesting here and now. It's captured about half the U.S. market, um, and that's from beginning at a very low capture of the market many years ago. But now it's somewhere near 50%, perhaps more in California. Modular type construction. So you're combining that with 3D. that's pretty cool, pretty advanced. What what decisions there feel the most consequential for you right now when you're tackling projects that have high amounts of creativity involved? Um, yeah, where's the friction in some of that, and where's the joy? So
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't really see any friction. I do just see a convergence,
yeah,
There's, I have a team, right? And
yeah,
there is how do we take the you know the creative aspect and be able to merge that with an economic model that's feasible and that works. How are we able to keep,
mm,
with 3D printing, the architectural integrity that we want to keep and creating a higher end luxury 3D model and still hitting our numbers. So a lot of it is really just it all just goes back to problem solving and working with the right teams where everybody kind of
mm,
understands their strengths and how do we bring those strengths to the table to, find a way. I'm a very results driven individual. So I believe like, once we kind of know what direction we want to head, let's work on how do we carve a path that works. And,
yeah.
following goals.
Nice, nice. So, and where would you like to see DG42 to be positioned, say, a year from now? If you could kind of wave your magic wand a year or two from now.
There's two things that I really care about. One is being able to bring more female investors to the table. I would,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, that's my dogs in the background.
It's okay. Take care of them. That's all right. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
We can
so
jump back in if you need to take care of them.
okay, let
And
me get them out
yeah,
of the
we'll
room.
just edit it out. It'll just get edited, so it's okay.
Okay, okay, give me 1 second, please.
Sure.
Dogs, get out. Go, 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 go. Okay, sorry. All right. Okay, let's okay. So what was I saying? They're still there.
Yeah, DG42,
So
say
right.
six
So
months to a year from now.
now, uh, two things is having more female capital partners in this
Yeah,
space, something that I really care about because I care about women being able to be a part of weaving the story and building it from, the onset. The
yeah.
second thing is creating a brand that just hasn't been done. So there's
Mm,
other places that, I see, value in creating a hospitality brand and creating programming, experiential programming, and accessibility to offerings that most people don't really know how to find or seek out,
mm,
and it's not readily available. So those are the two things, creating a brand that is able
yeah.
to bring people kind of to a heightened level of um, awareness within,
Mhm.
being able to connect to their surroundings in ways that is not really accessible right now in a lot of ways in California and in a lot of places. And secondarily, being able to connect with themselves in relation to what that experience does for them. So that when you come and you stay and you're part of this brand, you leave a little bit changed every time. So
Mm,
those are the two things. How do you create spaces that help people connect more inwardly with themselves in all the best ways and outwardly to the world around them and nature and all those wonderful things.
mm. Interesting here. Yeah, yeah. So, and you feel that would that unlock the most growth for your company to achieve things that way? Um,
I believe
it-
so. I believe
yeah.
that people are hungry for deeper connection and experiences in a
Mm,
world that's very like a lot of things happen like this on a screen, and
yeah.
I think people really crave deeper interactions. I find myself oftentimes just by happenstance mentoring other entrepreneurs, whether they're new, whether they've been at it even longer than me, because one thing that I use as an entrepreneur, one thing I use this experience as an entrepreneur for is how do I take what I'm doing and allow it to expand my world in a way that's serving me. And I kind of think that's what hospitality is in the same sense, meaning
Mm,
how do
yeah.
you take your day-to-day life, the choices you make, the people you surround yourself with, and all of that, and help it
Mm,
to just elevate the experience you're having on this planet. So
mm,
I take that ethos into the way I live my life, the way
mm,
I live as an entrepreneur, and I expand that into what I'm creating in hospitality, and I see that it resonates with people. So absolutely, I believe that creating a brand where people are able to kind of just um
mm.
reach more authenticity and have access to
Uh,
more
okay.
of the tangible world is something that people are craving.
I mean, I'm thinking on, well, the glamp ground movement, which has really taken hold across the U.S. Um, yeah, it's taken the typical campground and perhaps motel experience and just turned it on its head. Are you guys involved in any of those type projects? Um, and glamp ground is kind of like a general term. Uh,
Right. So
yeah.
the whole glamping and the whole outdoor, hospitality movement is also another big one. Um, it's something kind of adjacent to what I'm doing. It's not at the same caliber as what I'm building, but I do believe it's so important. Where oftentimes those projects might not have sustainability is when they don't have enough offerings, I believe, to you always want to build something that keeps people coming back. So whatever
Yeah.
that will look like. So if somebody's a glamper and they're just going to keep, going to different places at different parks and different outdoor areas, what do you create to get them to continue to come back to your spot with their family, with their kids, to
Mm,
build those ongoing memories at your place? Kind of like when,
mm,
I was a kid, we would go to, the summer camps every summer. So we would build on these memories. So I think one of the most valuable things in the outdoor hospitality space is back to creating something that you're gonna, that people are gonna want to continue to return to versus a one and
mm.
done model.
Okay. I've got some personal experience, I suppose, in this. I was involved in retreat center, Hollyhock Retreat Center up in British Columbia, started by some Greenpeace ex-members back in the day, quite a few days ago. But yeah, we were taking kind of standard 1950s rancher homes from Vancouver, and we'd float them on a barge, bring them up to the island up there, and drag them ashore, and then I'd be involved in turning that into a modern, more luxurious, and definitely a feel good kind of living experience for people. Working with some artists there, and yeah, and we would invite guests to come there where they would get they could participate in meditation, take some classes in organic food, um, yeah, things like that. So it's very dear to my heart, and I'm just speaking personally here. So
That sounds like a
um,
beautiful place and some place people would want to continue to return to and build memories,
yes,
friends and family.
yes. So yeah, you're in a really super interesting space here, and um, especially with technology being so overwhelming, it seems these days. Here we are talking on a podcast with computers. I'm not sure I could have envisioned this 20 years ago. So, um, uh, yeah, and so we need to balance that out in our personal lives. With what you're doing and making it more available to other people, to other folks, and creating some community around that, dare I say. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any last thoughts here for listeners on where you think we all need to be with hospitality experiential hospitality over the next little while. And any last thoughts for our listeners here?
I would say that, the things that we remember, the things that we pass on and stuff are the experiences and the memories that we build and create. So I definitely think there's something happening within the younger generation right now, and even with all generations right now, because of the way the world is changing. We're starting to develop a deeper understanding for how much connection and community matter. So I truly believe that if everybody can just put on their radar one new place a year to go and connect with nature, you're really doing yourself a service. I'm building a hotel right outside of Joshua Tree National Park, and it all started because in 2018 I started following different people from Joshua Tree. In 2019 I journal. That's another thing that I do. I had written
Oh,
in my journal that I need to go to Joshua Tree. Well, New Year's Eve came and it was 2020, and some of my friends asked me to come down south. I did. I spend time down there as well. And I said, I'll come, but we got to get to Joshua Tree because I wrote it
mm,
in my journal in 2019. Anyhow, so on January 2nd, 2020 was the first time I ever went there. And here I am 6 years later, building a dream
mm,
project with a dream team. There's something that happens when you go and you connect with the outdoors that really, truly
wow.
fuels and nourishes and nurtures our souls. Doesn't mean you have to become a hotelier. It just means that when you go and you connect with nature, good things come of it.
Lovely, lovely. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. This has been really enlightening here and personally rewarding to participate in this podcast with you, Pune. Where can people find you? Your websites, your email, and everything?
Yes, so my website is just designgroup42.com. At the same time, I am on LinkedIn. I don't know if you're going to caption my name in here or whatever. I am slowly and quietly kind of sharing the journey of this project through LinkedIn. So that's where I'm
Okay.
building
All
that.
right. Very
Yeah.
good. Very good. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.